Centerville, Georgia, a town that could be the backdrop of a dream. Its charm was undeniable. A tight-knit community, streets filled with laughter, and homes that seemed to echo with love and joy. It was the kind of place where people smiled at each other in passing, where the American dream felt not only possible, and among these picturesque streets, one family seemed to embody this dream better than most: Catherine and Timothy Price. They weren't just a part of this community, they were its heartbeat. Catherine Price was a pillar of strength and grace. A master sergeant in the Georgia Air National Guard, she wasn't just another name at Robins Air Force Base. She was a leader, a mentor, and an inspiration. Her colleagues admired her precision, her dedication, and her ability to guide others through the most complex challenges with unwavering confidence. Timothy Price, on the other hand, was the picture of ambition. From humble beginnings at Frito-Lay, he climbed his way up, learning every nuance of the logistics industry before daring to strike out on his own. With determination, he built a trucking company from nothing, turning it into a thriving enterprise. Together, Catherine and Timothy were a force to be reckoned with, a power couple admired not just for their success, but for the balance they seemed to have found between work, faith, and family. To their neighbors, they were the family that had it all: success, love, and faith. They attended church regularly at Fellowship Bible Baptist Church, where they were active members and contributors. Their home in Arbor Creek wasn't just a house, it was a gathering place, a space where community and family came together. But as we all know, appearances can often be deceiving. Behind the polished exterior of their lives, hidden struggles began to surface, struggles that no one could have anticipated. On the morning of May 4, 2021, this seemingly perfect world would unravel in a way that shocked not just their neighborhood, but an entire community. How could it happen? How could a life so perfect, so full of promise, end in devastation? Could it have been prevented? And most importantly, what can we learn from the story of Catherine and Timothy Price to ensure that such hidden struggles don't go unnoticed? What does a perfect life look like to you? Could it ever mask hidden struggles beneath the surface? Catherine and Timothy Price weren't just a couple. They were Centerville's version of the American dream. They were the ones people pointed to when asked, "Who inspires you?" They didn't just succeed, they thrived. And they did it together. Catherine, a master sergeant in the Georgia Air National Guard, was the epitome of strength, discipline, and brilliance. At Robins Air Force Base, her role as a budget analyst wasn't just a job, it was a mission. She handled millions of dollars in allocations, ensuring that resources were strategically managed to keep operations running smoothly. Her colleagues described her as meticulous, a natural leader who brought out the best in everyone around her. But Catherine wasn't just about numbers and strategy. She was about people. She mentored younger officers, showing them the ropes with patience and care. Her leadership wasn't about commanding respect. It was about earning it through her actions, her dedication, and her undeniable work ethic. Every promotion she received wasn't just a milestone for her. It was an inspiration to those who worked alongside. On the other hand, Timothy Price embodied ambition. Starting as an employee at Frito-Lay, he quickly learned the ins and outs of the logistics industry. But Timothy wasn't content to climb someone else's ladder. He wanted to build his own. He began with a single truck, taking long hauls himself to understand the challenges of the road. Timothy's hands-on approach set him apart. He knew what it was like to be a driver, and that perspective allowed him to build a company that prioritized efficiency and fairness. His business wasn't just about profit, it was about integrity. Together, Catherine and Timothy built a life that seemed almost too perfect. Their home in Arbor Creek was warm and welcoming, a place where family came first. They raised 3 children with values of hard work, faith, and kindness. Family dinners were filled with laughter, and weekends were often spent at Fellowship Bible Baptist Church, their second home. Faith was their foundation. At church, Catherine and Timothy weren't just attendees. They were active participants, contributing their time and resources to support the community. They were the couple everyone admired, the family that others aspired to emulate. Their presence at events brought warmth, their achievements inspired conversations, and their love for each other seemed to be the glue that held it all together. But perfection is often a facade. For all the admiration they garnered, for all the smiles they shared, there were cracks forming beneath the surface. Cracks that even those closest to them couldn't see. As we look deeper into the lives of Catherine and Timothy Price, we begin to see that their story wasn't just about success. It was about the hidden struggles that eventually unraveled their world. Have you ever admired someone's life from the outside, only to discover there was more to their story? What do you think people hide behind their smiles? Behind the smiles and Sunday appearances, the perfect facade of the Price family began to crack. At first, the changes were subtle. Small moments that might have seemed insignificant to an outsider, but spoke volumes to those living through them. Family dinners, once filled with laughter and stories, became quiet affairs. Conversations grew hollow, reduced to logistical details about schedules and responsibilities. The warmth that once defined their home was replaced by a growing sense of distance. Catherine and Timothy, once inseparable partners, now seemed like strangers sharing the same space. Catherine's demanding career at Robbins Air Force Base required focus and precision. Late nights at her desk, juggling budgets and navigating complex challenges, were both her strength and her escape. Timothy, consumed by the pressures of running his trucking business, spent long hours on the road. He was building something important, but the demands of his ambition pulled him further away from his family. What once felt like a partnership now felt like 2 separate lives, running parallel but never touching. Their shared dreams began to feel more like distant memories. What was left were unspoken frustrations and growing resentment. Catherine's strength and independence, the very qualities that Timothy had once admired, now seemed to intimidate him. The balance of their relationship shifted, and with it came tension neither could fully address. 4 months before the tragedy, Timothy made a decision that marked the beginning of the end. Unable to handle the growing distance, he moved out of their family home in Arbor Creek. For Catherine, this separation was painful but necessary. She wasn't just protecting herself, she was protecting her children. Filing for divorce was a step toward rebuilding, a decision that required courage and clarity, but for Timothy, it felt like a loss of control over the life he had built and the family he thought he'd always have. Catherine's independence became a source of frustration for Timothy. Her ability to move forward without him highlighted his own insecurities. For a man who had always prided himself on his ability to build and control, the realization that he no longer had influence over his family was devastating. What the world didn't see was a man unraveling, holding on to a life that had already slipped through his fingers, and a woman determined to rise above, even as she carried the weight of heartbreak and responsibility. Do you think independence in a relationship can sometimes intimidate a partner? Why or why not? What do you think makes it so hard for people to let go of control? May 4, 2021. For the residents of Arbor Creek, it was a morning like any other. The sun rose over the quiet neighborhood, casting a warm glow on the familiar, picturesque streets. Parents prepared their children for school, commuters sipped their coffee before heading to work, and life moved forward with its usual rhythm. But for Catherine and Timothy Price, this morning would be anything but ordinary. By 8:52 a.m., everything would change. At exactly 8:52 a.m., the Centerville Police Department received a call. On the other end of the line was Timothy Price. His voice was calm, deliberate, and chilling as he uttered 7 words that froze the dispatcher in place. "I've shot my wife. She's dead." The words sent shockwaves through the department. Officers were dispatched immediately, racing to the Price family home in Arbor Creek. By the time they arrived, the peaceful street had transformed into a scene of confusion and fear. Neighbors stood frozen in their driveways, their morning routines abruptly halted by the sight of flashing lights and the sound of sirens. The house stood eerily silent. The officers approached cautiously, attempting to make contact with anyone inside, but no voices answered their calls. The front door was locked, the windows closed, and an unsettling stillness hung in the air. Fearing the worst, the Houston County Special Response Team was called in. Their arrival marked a shift in the operation, from hopeful negotiation to tactical intervention. After repeated attempts to establish contact, the decision was made to deploy tear gas. Canisters shattered the windows, releasing clouds of smoke into the home. The neighbors watched in shock, their serene morning now a chaotic blur of flashing lights and billowing gas. Even then, no sound came from within the house. No movement, no response. The silence was deafening. 9:26 a.m., the Special Response Team made their move. They breached the front door and entered the home, their training preparing them for the worst. But nothing could prepare them for what they found inside. In the living room they found Catherine and Timothy Price. Both were lifeless, each with a gunshot wound. The evidence suggested that Timothy had shot Catherine before turning the gun on himself. The house, once a place of love and family, was now a silent witness to an unspeakable tragedy. Outside, the officers emerged with grim faces, confirming the community's worst fear. The news spread quickly, sending ripples of grief and disbelief throughout Centerville. For those who knew the Prices, it seemed unthinkable. How could a family so admired, so respected, come to such a devastating end? And what of the 3 children left behind? Orphans in a single morning. As the investigation unfolded, the questions only grew louder. Could this tragedy have been prevented? Were there signs that went unnoticed, red flags that could have hinted at the storm brewing beneath the surface? Could this have been prevented? What signs should loved ones watch for in situations like this? How can we intervene before it's too late? As the investigation progressed, the story of Catherine and Timothy Price took a darker turn. Behind the tragedy lay a web of secrets and betrayal that unraveled the perfect image they had worked so hard to create. Timothy Price, the ambitious businessman and devoted father, had been living a double life. Investigators discovered that he had been unfaithful, a relationship outside his marriage that had gone far beyond a fleeting affair. This relationship had resulted in a pregnancy, a secret that shattered the foundation of his marriage. For Catherine, this betrayal wasn't just painful, it was devastating. The man she had built a life with, the father of her children, had not only broken her trust, but also brought a permanent consequence into their lives. This wasn't something that could be ignored or forgiven. Determined to protect her children and herself, Catherine made the courageous decision to file for divorce. It wasn't a rash choice, it was a deliberate act of self-preservation. Catherine was a woman of strength, a leader who had faced challenges on the battlefield of life and work. But this battle was personal, and she knew that walking away was her only option. But for Timothy, Catherine's decision was more than a rejection, it was a loss of control. His carefully constructed life was slipping through his fingers, and with it, his sense of identity and power. For a man who prided himself on his ability to build and lead, the realization that his wife no longer needed him was unbearable. Family and friends began to notice changes in Timothy's demeanor. He became withdrawn, angry, and obsessive. Text messages revealed his growing frustration, laced with attempts to manipulate Catherine into reconciliation. But Catherine stood firm. Her independence, her resilience, and her refusal to bow to his demands only fueled Timothy's anger. Catherine's colleagues at Robbins Air Force Base saw a shift in her as well. While she remained professional and composed at work, there was a quiet determination in her actions, a focus that came from someone rebuilding their life while carrying the weight of immense personal pain. Her military accolades and reputation as a leader reflected her strength, but even the strongest individuals have limits. Catherine was navigating uncharted waters, and though she held her head high, she was fighting a battle no one else could see. The clash between Catherine's independence and Timothy's need for control became a toxic dynamic that escalated with every passing day. For Timothy, losing Catherine wasn't just losing his wife, it was losing the image of himself he had built. His actions grew more desperate, and the storm within him continued to brew. The heartbreaking truth is that this wasn't just a story of betrayal. It was a story of power, control, and the devastating consequences when one person refuses to let go. Catherine, a symbol of resilience and strength, became the target of Timothy's growing frustration. And for their family, the cost of that clash would be unthinkable. What would you do if you discovered a partner's double life? Would you stay, or would you leave? How can we ensure people have the support they need to make those tough decisions? The tragedy that unfolded within the walls of the Price family home didn't just shatter one family, it sent shockwaves through the entire community of Centerville. At Robbins Air Force Base, Catherine's empty desk became a haunting reminder of the loss. For years she had been a cornerstone of the 116th Air Control Wing, her precision and leadership shaping its operations. Now her absence was a void too large to fill. Who once relied on her unwavering strength gathered in silent mourning. At the Fellowship Bible Baptist Church, where Catherine and Timothy had once been active members, the congregation struggled to reconcile the events that had unfolded. Prayer circles formed, candles were lit, and hymns filled the air as the community came together to grieve. But grief alone wasn't enough. The Price children, now orphaned, became the center of the community's efforts. Fundraisers were organized, with friends, neighbors, and even strangers contributing to ensure the children would have the support they needed. Balloons were released in Catherine's memory, a tribute to the life she lived and the legacy she left behind. It was a moment of beauty amid heartbreak, a visual symbol of a community's commitment to never forget her impact. The efforts extended beyond financial support. Emotional and spiritual care became a priority. The church organized counseling sessions for the children and others deeply affected by the tragedy. Community members visited regularly, ensuring the children wouldn't feel alone in the wake of their unimaginable loss. Catherine's friends and colleagues began speaking out, sharing stories of her resilience and strength. They described a woman who gave her all to those around her, even as she carried her own burdens. Her sister-in-law, who had been vocal about the events leading up to the tragedy, became an advocate for change, urging others to recognize the signs of toxic relationships and to act before it was too late. At Robbins Air Force Base, Catherine's legacy inspired a movement. Programs were initiated to support military families dealing with personal challenges, and her name became a symbol of strength and resilience within the Air National Guard. How can a community step up to support children and families affected by tragedy? What role would you play in helping prevent similar events in your own community? Catherine Price's story is more than a tragedy. It's a powerful reminder that behind closed doors, even the strongest among us can face struggles we may never see. Her life was a testament to resilience, courage, and love for her children, but her untimely death forces us to confront the uncomfortable truths that we often avoid. This isn't just Catherine's story, it's a call to action, a plea for all of us to look deeper. Domestic violence doesn't always look the way we think it does. It's not just physical, it can be emotional, psychological, or even financial. It often begins with subtle signs, controlling behavior, isolation, or manipulation. These red flags may seem small at first, but over time they can escalate into dangerous situations. Catherine's courage to leave wasn't just about herself. It was about protecting her children and creating a future free from fear. But her strength wasn't enough to shield her from the dangers of a partner who refused to let go. It's a painful reminder that leaving an abusive situation can often be the most dangerous moment for a victim. Her story compels us to ask, how can we do better? How can we create environments where survivors feel safe to speak out, where they know they're not alone, and where their decisions to leave are met with protection and support? Programs are making a difference. From local shelters offering a safe haven to nationwide hotlines providing immediate assistance. Resources are out there for those in need. But awareness is key. If more people understand the warning signs and know how to intervene, lives can be saved. Catherine's legacy isn't just about the life she lived. It's about the change her story can inspire. It's a call to action for communities to prioritize education and prevention, for friends and family to remain vigilant, and for all of us to create a culture where seeking help is met with compassion, not judgment. The lessons we learn from Catherine's life are clear. Never ignore the signs. Never hesitate to speak up. And always remember that help is available. Every voice matters, every action counts, and every life is worth saving. What warning signs do you think people often miss in relationships? Could greater awareness save lives? What steps can you take today to help create a safer, more supportive community? Catherine Price's story will not be remembered solely for the tragedy that claimed her life, but for the strength, love, and unwavering courage she displayed in the face of adversity. She was a mother, a leader, a friend, and a beacon of hope for those who knew her. Her life was a testament to resilience, a constant reminder that even in the darkest times, there is light. But Catherine's story is also a challenge. It's a challenge to us all to look beyond appearances, to ask the hard questions and to take action when we sense something is wrong. Behind the smiles and successes, she faced struggles that no one should have to endure alone. Her decision to leave was an act of bravery. But her story reminds us that leaving is often the most dangerous step for someone in an abusive situation. Her courage must not be in vain. Catherine's life calls us to action, to create safe spaces, to offer support, and to be the voice for those who cannot speak for themselves. Her legacy is a call to stand together as a community, to prevent tragedies like this, and to ensure that no one feels trapped in silence. If Catherine's story moved you, don't let it end here. Take a moment to reflect on the lessons her life teaches us. Share this story with someone who might need to hear it. It could be the lifeline they're waiting for. Discuss it with your family, your friends, your community. Together, we can ensure her tragedy becomes a beacon of hope for others. And if you want to see more stories like this, stories that inspire change, bring awareness, and honor the lives of those who've faced unimaginable challenges, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. By subscribing, you join a community dedicated to shining a light on untold stories and helping others find hope. Thank you for watching. Together we can turn Catherine's tragedy into a message of hope, awareness, and action. Until next time, take care of yourselves and those around you.